Here we have part 3 of chapter 5, final part of this chapter. The whole chapter is talking about interpersonal interactions and nonverbal considerations of those interactions. Remember that communication is a two-way street, and so we want to consider the nonverbal messages that we send as well as the nonverbal messages that we receive and how we encode those or decode them respectively. So when it comes to encoding skills, the way we send messages nonverbally, when we're trying to think about how we want to come across, what message we want to send, we want to identify the choices that we have. What facial expression can I give with this? Should I smile? Should I raise an eyebrow? Should I remain as expressionless as possible? Should I change the tone of my voice? Those are questions that you may ask depending on where you are. Be consistent. Your verbal message and your nonverbal message should be similar. If you contradict verbal and nonverbal, it is likely that your audience will trust you less because of the inconsistency. You're only going to figure out what you do and how to change it if you do number 3 there, self-monitor. Think about the way you behave around other people and what messages those behaviors might send. What do you need to change? Number 4, you want to avoid extremes and monotony. So you don't want to be over the top. You don't want to be so excited or excitable or so extreme that people don't take you seriously. You also don't want to be so monotonous that you become boring or disengaging to an audience, whether that audience be one person or a crowd. You want to analyze the situation. This will help you determine what type of nonverbal behavior is acceptable. Is it acceptable to speak loudly, or do I need to speak in hushed tones? Is it appropriate to slap somebody on the back and laugh and smile with them? Or is this a solemn occasion? Those are all things that you might ask. Number 6, maintain eye contact with the speaker. So if someone is speaking to you and you want to send the message that you are indeed listening to them, you need to maintain eye contact. At least in American culture, you're expected to make more eye contact when you're listening to someone than when you're actually speaking to them. So keep that in your mind, that when you want to make sure people know you're listening, make eye contact. Number 7, make sure to avoid certain adapters in public. Those adapters are things we do to make ourselves more comfortable. So some of the examples from the text would be like scratching an itch, or cleaning out your ear with your finger. Those are things that are considered rude or impolite to do in many social gatherings. Number 8, avoid strong cologne or perfume. Now that is a nonverbal factor. We want to smell nice and presentable to send an impression, but you can overdo it. So you want to avoid the strong ones or too much. It could be because someone doesn't like the scent, or it could be someone has allergies to strong scents like that. And then number 9, be careful with touching. Touch is it's something that you need to be aware of, because some people take touch the wrong way. So you may be intending to just be warm and inviting, but you send the message instead that you are interested romantically, or you're being inconsiderate of personal space. So you want to be careful. When it comes to the decoding side of things, taking apart the messages that we receive from others, a lot of this has to do with just pumping the brakes before we make assumptions. Number 1, be tentative. Meaning, don't jump to conclusions. Mindfully seek alternatives when making judgment. Number 2, that means that you consider what else could this mean beyond what I thought it meant initially. Number 3, see messages as multi-channeled. You might have missed something, or you might have misinterpreted things on one channel and not on another. So messages are complex. Number 4, of course, this is always good advice. Consider the possibility that you are incorrect, in this case, your assessment of the meaning of someone else's message. Then number 5, interpret your judgments and conclusions against a cultural context. If you're talking to someone who is from your own culture, especially someone that you know, you're going to have a decent indication of what their nonverbals mean. However, if you were talking to someone from another culture, you'll have a much higher likelihood of not knowing what their nonverbal norms are, or being confused by them. Number 6 seems redundant to some of these others, but consider multiple factors. There are a lot of different influencers whenever it comes to facial expression, body language, those things, because they convey our emotions and how we feel. So someone's sour expression may have very little to do with what you said. It may be that they suddenly got a pain in their foot for no apparent reason, and so they have that weird look on their face. That kind of thing happens. Number 7 is important. Measure behaviors against a baseline. Meaning, if you know the person, consider how they act normally, what their actions normally mean under typical circumstances. Measure what's happening now against that in order to better understand what they mean right now. It may be that today they're just not acting like their normal self, they're having a bad day. Or it may mean that they're really excited about something today, because this isn't how they normally behave. So these are just some of the factors to consider whenever you are trying to decode messages communicated by others through nonverbal means.